Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to part 1 season 3 of What If Deku Was Trained by Stain. Just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax, you're in for a treat, and so we begin. Shallow. It was an utter disappointment from the villain whose knife was raised as she assessed the amount of blood she had gathered from the cut she inflicted upon Uraraka. You should not have cut her in the first place. Just who are you? Isui, who was in the company of Uraraka, snarled. The act itself was common amongst villains, but she deemed the reaction unacceptable. I'm Toga. Toga's voice muffled due to the gear she wore. However, both of the students never missed the dangerous glint of her eyes while told them how they were cute. Pointing her knives to the two, she mentioned their surnames, which added to the intimidation and increasing feelings of danger. The exchange of lines between the three pursued, but ended with a successful drawing of the blood of Toga from Achako, which was the cause of why she was sitting on the ground when Midoriya and the others arrived. Toga met the greenette's eyes with a particular who blushed at the sight of him. He noticed the wound on his classmate's arm, but relieved when it wasn't too serious. When she declared that she wanted to run after the villain, she was abruptly stopped by Isui, telling her that engaging in an unnecessary fight won't be advisable since combat engagement is for self-defense only. I am just glad both of you were fine. And it crossed upon his mind to tag along with them on their way to the camp. Let's all join together and head back into the camp. Right now, we are protecting Kakin as we proceed, as the idea of tagging along and of being in great numbers for defense against the villains. Their glass of momentary relief upon their numbers against villains shattered when Isui spoke her other concern. Midoriya-chan, I thought you and the others were with Bakugo-chan. Everyone turned their heads when the realization dawned upon them, for it wasn't just Katsuki who wasn't in the circle, Fumikage too. Midoriya felt chills went down his spine as it seemed to be a failure against him. He just failed to keep both of his classmates safe, and particularly Bakugo, who happened to be the league's target for tonight. Are you perhaps looking for something? It was a voice laced with utmost mockery, a purpose to rile them up. The villain was indeed successful, especially when he revealed what seemed to be marbles of two upon resting upon his palm. Perhaps the boy who's currently on my hand along with the other. Give him back. Midoriya could only shout in his demand because the fight from Muscular had seemed to claim the strength he has left. Mind going a little blank from the injuries he had sustained. He kept convincing himself to move or lose them at the hand of the villain. It seemed like Midoriya's protest was unheard as the villain went on with his monologue, playing the marble as he did. Such talent is both wasted to the underserving hero society. A smirk crosses the villain's face as he stopped toying with the marble, in which, due to the villain's quirk, has Bakugo inside it. Give him back. Give him back. The villain repeated, albeit full of mockery once more. Strange. Have you hero wannabe forgotten that Bakugo doesn't belong to anyone? However, his line started having a mixture of irritation while he continued. The kid doesn't belong to anyone, you egoist. Shadow then decided to take action as his ice attack aimed to hit the villain for immobilization. Even so, the villain seemed to have predicted the onslaught and successfully evaded. He then proceeded with his point on why Bakugo Katsuki shall be in the hands of the villains tonight. A path that doesn't only belong to such false ideals of heroism and fanatical values. Do you know? There was a momentary pause as he landed on a tree farther from where he just stood. The society keeps pushing such stupid values onto them, things that aren't befitting of the ones he shows and of his talent. Although I must admit, this other kid named Takoyami will also be of good cause to the league. Todoroki, on the other hand, remained pensive as he wondered how the villain managed to snatch up both of his classmates without emitting any noise to be noticed. Admittedly, Midoriya pondered just the same as he glanced towards Todoroki with a stare hopefully to get across his silent plea, which was thankfully heard. Heard as Todoroki repeated the attempt he did earlier, only that the area it covers is large enough, hoping that it would come in contact with the villain, effectively freezing him to retrieve both of their classmates. Dread travels upon Midoriya's body as the next words echoed from the villain. Vanguard Action Squad. The target is secured. Head to the retrieval point in the next 5 minutes. This time there was only joy on the villain as he ended his message with, the show has finally come to a close. Come to a close, Todoroki repeated yet. Midoriya could not care less as he yelled in protest to the events that escalate. Immediately they all ran after while some of the villains far away conversed on how they were able to succeed. Hey Dabai, did you hear that? Mr. Compress succeeded. I thought I'd get sleepy with how slow he acted. However, the man whom the other one regarded as Dabai just sighed in disagreement with the claim. Don't say such, he did such a good job. The conversation went on between the two regarding the events that transpired tonight, with Dabai's slightly disappointed tone about the gas that was cleared along. Unbeknownst to them, from the bush they had passed, was the shivering Aoyama from Class 1A, while some of his two other peers laid unconscious at the ground. Aoyama, who had heard the exchange between the villains, felt elated, for it meant that his peers were fighting. But it came rashing when he just realized his eyes met Dabai's, prompting the villain to walk towards his hiding area. However, he was interrupted upon his companion's inquiry as to why the Namu, who was responding upon his voice only, wasn't called during tonight's mission, in which Dabai replied that from tonight's occasion, it probably killed a person already, and so he summons it. Meanwhile, Mr. Compress, who had Bakugo and Takoyami in his possession, was being sought after by Midoriya's group. They kept being farther away, Midoriya thought, desperation as he runs after the time, after whom the League has targeted. However, that was when the idea had struck him. Uraraka-san, make us float, and Asui-san, take us as far as you can with your tongue. And then he wastes no time for the next instruction towards his classmates. He might have busted his bones, but his mind still functions well, and he can do this. We can do this, he told himself, shutting away any other thoughts as he focuses everything on him for the retrieval of Takoyami and especially Balugu. Shoji-kun, use your arms to change our trajectory while we are at. Uraraka-san has to make sure she will keep an eye on the distance to ensure proper timing of the release. While Shoji was able to figure out that they are to follow the concept of a human bullet, Uraraka was quick to question Midoriya's current state during the chase. Deku-kun, are you sure you can still move with the number of injuries you have sustained? It won't be a wonder if you were to lose consciousness in the middle of this, Midoriya, Todoroki added. And so he suggested that he stayed and let them do the chasing and retrieval. Nevertheless, his suggestion was abruptly cut with the hell-bending determination that Midoriya plastered. I don't feel the pain right now. I can still move. So hurry up. And so they commenced the human bullet by Uraraka's touch with Asui's simultaneous wrapping of her tongue around Shoji, Todoroki, and Midoriya. Make sure you save those too, Asui encouraged, finally throwing them into the air with all the force she could muster. And from the Vanguard Action Squad's retrieval point where Toga was explaining how she only had caught a person's blood during the whole search, the fall of Mr. Compress onto the ground ripples surprise amongst the villains as 3 students stood at his back, to which Toga took delight. One of them was the one with whom she bears her current interest. Kustokoyami-kun and Kacchan. Mr. Get out of the way. Dabai, the villain whose face had seemed to be stitched, warned. Mr. Compress then complied as he lets himself out of the children's feet using his quirk. Bluish fires came towards them, an attack they barely anticipated, which both Todoroki and Shoji barely dodged, except for Midoriya, who wasn't so lucky at it undeviatingly hit his arm, having him screaming in pain. Toga, with her hyped spirit, charged at Midoriya while she introduces herself and pinned him down. A knife being pointed at him was nothing new to Midoriya as he had his fair share of experiences, but the dread was still there as it was near his neck. You'll look lovelier if you were to bleed more, Izuku. She even seemed pleased that she takes the force to stab him but suddenly thrown into the ground as Shoji managed to grab her just in time. Meanwhile, Mr. Compress had emerged once more as he made his way towards Dabai, who then asked as to where Bakugo was. It was most surprising to feel nothing when he patted the side pockets of his coat. We're now retreating. Midoriya, Todoroki, Shoji exclaimed. A smile of victory was on his face as he draws out the marbles that owned Mr. Compress just a while ago. When Mr. Compress turned around, he found it fascinating. He even complimented how Shoji's quirk worked splendidly and successfully retrieved Bakugo. Little did they know that all was for naught when Dabai walks ahead. Move, I am gonna catch them however. Cut off with the hand ministration from Mr. Compress as he watched them run away as far as they can, only to be greeted by a Namu and the Kurogiri, the warp, when they evaded an encounter with Namu. The 5-minute mark is up, he casually said, as if the fear that crossed upon the faces of the 3 students were non-existent. Let us go. He announced a cue for the villains to their leave. With Toga, whose knife was on Izuku's throat just a while ago, shyly waves with a promise that she will surely meet with him the next time. The one who was accompanying Dabai just casually jumped into the portal. Wait, the goal isn't done yet, he announces, referring to their targets, which were held by the 3 students still engaged in Mr. Compress's quirk. The basics of magic. Mr. Compress began as he stared at the 3 students, all beat up with the false sense of security that they have managed to retrieve their classmate. He found fun in that as he proceeded to reveal his trick before he took flight. When something is flaunted, then something is hidden behind it. He reveals his mask, stuck his tongue out. He really did found the children amusing as their relief morphed into horror along with the realization of what he just did, of how he managed to trick them. There on resting atop his tongue were the actual marbles of his quirk that hosted both Katsuki Bakugo and Fumikage Takoyami. With a snap of the finger, the ones on Shoji's possession turned into ice. They were heavily tricked, and they wasted no time to charge into them once more, their last attempt to retrieve their classmates at the hold of the villain. And sadly, the only time they were finally able to figure out the secret of his quirk, which was the capability to compress and confine things. It was a little too late. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. Hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We The Celestials Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. I'd like to let you all know on behalf of We The Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. If you're perhaps interested in what we do here at WTC, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 and older to join our crew. You can find us on our Discord, which you can locate in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be. Whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits, all you gotta do is hit up the recruitment server and sign up for whichever category of work fulfills your interests. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching and have a great day.